Hi, good evening, everybody. I am Representative Victoria Sullivan, representing Manchester's Ward 9 here in Manchester, and beside me is...
Representative Lisa Freeman, representing District 12, which is Ward 5, right here in Manchester.
And we are filling in tonight for Eric Eastman. I think I'm Eric.
Is that
My
how it
locks
goes?
aren't as nice as his, but they're closer. And you're
Mine
Gary.
neither.
So we're filling in for them tonight. We are trying to Facebook Live, but my son set me up with a broken tripod, so I'm holding it while we talk.
And why?
Because some people can't get Manchester TV channel 23, so they watch the Facebook Live, and I'm just not very good at it.
They can
So,
stream it too.
Yeah, they can stream it, but it doesn't always work. My microphone's in your face. There we go.
So we have a couple of guests tonight, which
We do have a couple of guests
This is
tonight. We also
going-
have a red truck that's sitting here. I don't know why that is, but I like red trucks.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Someone left their toy behind. Is that a fidget? It's a fidget toy? So we do have a couple of guests. We're going to speak with Rick Olson tonight, who is a Second Amendment guru.
Pro Second Amendment
guru here in New Hampshire.
person, yes.
And later on, we're going to have Eddie Edwards right in off of his primary win.
Woohoo!
And he's going to come in to talk to us. And we're going to talk a little local for a little while.
Sure,
You sit on the Manchester School Board.
I do.
You are my bestie.
Oh, you're my
so,
bestie.
So you get phone calls, and I'm really frustrated with the Manchester School District. I think last night it was 10 o'clock at night, maybe. That's how much she loves me. She answers her phone at 10 o'clock at night for me.
What are friends for?
Because I'm very frustrated by the way that parents are being kicked out of our school system, even though certain people say that they are not, that they are welcome, that's not happening. But I hear from parents all the time that it's happening. I got a phone call today from a parent. Their school has implemented that new volunteer handbook that parents had no say in that happened. And now in a school where they used to be able to just walk in and, check in at the desk like we do, but go and speak with the nurse. Now they cannot leave the office area unless they are fingerprinted, which is not the way that the law is written. The law is written that if you are a designated volunteer. So if you're volunteering in the classroom all the time, you're reading to kids all the time, you're spending time with kids one-on-one, you are a designated volunteer and you need to go through a background check and fingerprinting. If you're volunteering like on a field trip, you don't have to have fingerprinting because you're not going to be alone with children.
Well, here's my thoughts on that. First off, I have to give Jimmy LaHoo a shout out for that, because that volunteer handbook had not been updated for many, many years. Given that, fingerprinting a volunteer who comes into the school, who is in a classroom reading to kids, really seems counterproductive. Absolutely do.
Well, because the district doesn't pay for it either. The parents pay for it. And what is it, almost $50
It
now?
is almost $50, and the district also doesn't pay for the criminal background checks,
Right.
Which aren't that expensive. But if you're doing it every year, which you're supposed to do every year, it's $25-$30 now for a criminal background check. So I don't know. Victoria, I can understand why people would feel frustrated with that and a little put off by it.
So you know that there was this drama club that I started 7 years ago.
There was a drama club you started 7 years ago.
And it was free to the taxpayers. It was
It was
supported
free
by
to
the
the taxpayers.
the PTA of the school. And we did amazing things. We did 2 shows a year, almost every year,
Awesome.
1st through 5th grade. Nobody was turned away. Everybody could participate.
And how
that
much
wanted
did you
to.
get paid for that?
I got paid in love and hugs, and that was all.
Put a dollar amount on it.
There was $0 involved.
Thank you. Just want to make that, put that on the record.
And I did it when my older son was in 1st grade. I began it, and I finished it when my younger son completed 5th grade. And the parents that were coming, that had helped me all those years, that still have children in that school, had wanted to take on that play, the theater group that we had started and built and had together. And I had told the kids that I would still be there for them. I would still come visit. I would still help. Well, at the end of the school year last year, we were told point blank that wasn't going to happen, that the teachers have decided to take it over. They were going to get a stipend for it. And they were going to take it over. You and I met with Dr. Vargas.
We did.
We after that meeting, felt like we had made some headway, and we thought that things were going to go in a positive direction for these kids and the parents.
We did.
So yesterday I got a message from a parent that tells me that that is not the way that it's going. The parents are not helping. The Teachers have taken it over. It will be one instructional day for an hour and a half a week, and they will eventually build it up into 2 days. They are not doing any production that has been discussed or talked about, so it is no longer what we built it up to be. It is not what these kids deserve, and this was a completely volunteer-run program for 7 years where parents went in, volunteered their time. Teachers were welcome. They just didn't participate. The parents volunteered their time, and like I said, we did 2 full, you've
I saw
been
them.
there.
They were awesome.
Full production musicals a year. So I am heartbroken that this isn't happening anymore. I'm heartbroken for the kids. It's only going to be available, this class that they're having now is going to be available with grades 3 through 5 is my understanding. So the first and second graders are out. And I'm heartbroken. And this is what we talk about when we're talking about the community that once was. Right? These parents were in there in the school. They were building this up with all these kids. And now mind you, we didn't get, the kids that weren't active. We got kids that needed this for an outlet. We got kids that didn't do so well sitting in their chairs, but when they came to us, they really shined in what we did. We brought out something in them their teachers couldn't. So, like I said.
And not because they didn't want to bring it out for these kids, but because they didn't have the type of time that you had to put into
and
doing
I will tell you
something
the
like
other
that.
the other reason why. We had no prejudices about these kids. We didn't know who they were outside of our drama club. We didn't know who they were in school. We didn't know who their friends were. We didn't know how they behaved or didn't behave. When they walked into that theater, they were just there for that, and they had a clean slate with us. We only judged them on how they were with us.
Right.
And they were not. And we had teachers come up to us and say, I can't believe that is the same child that sits in my class and doesn't make a peep. And they're up there, and they're shining, and they're dancing, and they're singing, and they're
we're
completely
constantly, in the district, we're constantly looking for ways to engage these kids, after school especially, because that seems to be where we're falling short with a lot of them.
And parents. We're supposed to be engaging parents,
We're
right?
absolutely supposed to be engaging parents. A lot of parents don't have the luxury of a lot of time to volunteer because they do have to have a job. But, to be able to carve out a couple of hours a week to get invested as a parent in one of your kids' activities, that you're not on the sidelines. It's great when parents go to soccer games and football games and support their kids. That's always a wonderful thing. But when you have a parent who's engaged with a kid in an activity, but
this even helped those parents that can't normally be there, because it wasn't. We charged $5 a kid to participate, because that just helped defray the cost. And if for the rights for these plays are $3, $4, $5. And the bigger plays are $600-$700, right? So the PTA would underwrite it. We'd pay them back after with the show money that came in, the donations that came in. But we charged them $5, and that was basically just to help defray the cost. And it was kind of a good faith thing. You pay $5, you're invested. If kids didn't have the money, we didn't track down the parents. We didn't say you can't participate. It just we let everybody be there.
I just wish there was a better balance. It really does disturb me that it's an either us or them situation. And I'm speaking as a parent. I'm not speaking as a school board member, because I went through the same thing when my son was in the district. It's not a competition. It's not the teachers against the parents. It's supposed to be a collaboration.
It's supposed to be about the kids.
Yeah, it's supposed to be about the kids, but it's also supposed to be about building a community. And the way that you build positive communities is by example. When you show kids that you as an adult can function and act appropriately with another adult that they're exposed to, you're modeling a really good behavior.
That's true.
So when you have one group over here and one group over there, no one's meeting in the middle, then what are we saying to these kids?
And here's the other thing, right? These kids that have we had so much talent come out of this little drama club of ours, and these kids can't afford to go to the Palace and pay $100 to be in a production.
No, of course they can't.
They can't. But they got to be on stage, have big roles, learn to sing, learn to dance, learn to be teammates with these other actors that they were teammates with, and it was just, they built it up. The kids, when I was leaving, said, we're always going to be a family. And that's kind of how we were. We were this family that met 3 days a week after school. Their parents helped out when they could and built this. All of our sets were made out of cardboard, but they looked great. And the parents helped out, and it was really a really positive thing. And I just think it's another like just tick off the box when we look at how we're destroying the community here. And we need to be building up that community and supporting these kids,
Especially
and bringing
now,
parents in. And with this opioid
That's
crisis,
right,
like
exactly.
this is how we stop it. We stop it by having these kids and these families supported. That's how we stop it. We don't stop it by pushing parents out, isolating kids from their families, and that's really what's happening.
Yeah, there's a call coming in.
When I first came here, I used to read to the kids in the classroom and help in the classroom all the time. By the time my son left that school, we weren't allowed in the classrooms anymore.
Yeah,
Okay, we have a call. I always mess this up, but I'm going to try my best. Line 1. Did I do it? Hello, caller.
No, you messed it up.
Hello, caller.
Push them all.
Okay, well, we know that works.
Line 1.
Okay, I did. I hit the number 1. No?
She did.
I did. I have a witness. How to answer the phone. Press on, off, then wait approximately 2 to 3 seconds before addressing the caller. Okay, here we go. Ready? I'm going to press on, off. Hello, caller. Are you there?
Hi, Victoria and Lisa. How are you doing? It's Sandy Paradise, an old school board member.
Hi, how are you?
You're not
I'm
old.
pretty good.
And I did it. I
Pretty good
answered
for an
the
old lady.
phone.
You're not old. You're mature. There's a difference.
I'm old, but I'm young at heart.
There you go.
You know, I feel bad what you're talking about because yes, that's not good. I'll tell you a little story. When I went to Bakersville School for 9 years, in the 7th and 8th grade, we had little operettas.
Oh.
They weren't Gilbert and Sullivan or nothing like that. I think they were like, excuse me, I think at the time like Robin Hood and whatever.
Right.
We did Robin Hood.
But yeah, and our teacher did not get a stipend or
There you
anything.
go.
She was a sweetheart. She was our basketball coach, and anyone who wanted to join, and if you didn't have a good voice or you had a good voice, it didn't matter. You were in the chorus. We had a ball.
Yep.
We did that in 7th and 8th grade. Well, some of us who went to Central High School, I was 5'4". In fact, most of us were around that, 5'2", 5'4". We weren't tall enough to play basketball, and so we tried out for chorus. We tried out for chorus with Mr. McAllister. And then if you were good enough, I entered the chorus, and then I enjoyed it for 2 or 3 years, and then when I was 16, I got a little job in an office because I took the commercial course. But getting back to that, but you know what I feel bad about? I feel bad about also that you can't do that, and then if grandmothers or great-grandmothers wanted to come in, they have to pay $50.
Yep.
Plus, of course, they still let me in the schools because I've been over here 80 years in Manchester, in South Manchester. But
Shh, don't tell me
they
you're
know
not
who I am.
fingerprinted.
But
Nobody asked you that question, Sandy. You voluntarily gave that up.
I guess so. I'm so like that. And when I was on the school board, I did used to go in and read and everything. But I used to go on a cross-country buses, bring oranges, go with the kids all over the state and everything. But because I had time, I did manage to be able to stay home with my children for 10 years, and then I went to work.
Uh-huh.
But I really feel bad about your situation because that should not be.
It shouldn't.
It is so nice to have a person come in, give their talent and so on, and then let some children, they just don't have anything to go home to.
It's true.
They don't have, it's very difficult. I've seen a lot in my lifetime, I'll tell you. And my daughter was a nurse at Beach Street School when she got out of college. That opened her eyes up, I'll tell you.
I bet it did.
Not that the kids were bad, but they were very needy.
Yep.
Right. Well, Sandy,
Yes.
thank you so much for calling, and thank you for all you've
yeah,
done for these
so
kids.
So why are they doing that? And who decided that a teacher was going to get a stipend to do that?
It's in their
The
contract.
union decided that it's in the
It's
contract,
in their contract,
and
Sandy.
the principal of the school
Oh,
decided
in
that
their
she.
contract.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was on negotiations for 10 years, And I know how those things work out sometimes.
Yeah.
But I still think, I don't know why, through your PTA or something, or your booster club or whatever, PTO, that's kind of a shame. Because sometimes, and sometimes if it's a teacher, it's a little bit more intimidating
Yes.
than a person that you've known for a long time that comes into the school, a parent or whatever. Anyway, I'll let you ladies go. I still think that either the police or somebody ought to pay that $50 amount. I'm wondering how many volunteers do you have that come in to help at schools?
Well, we can find out,
and I'll let
Sandy.
you go with that.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Yeah. So the result was the principal made the decision that the parents wouldn't do it anymore, that the teachers would. I think that she had asked that in there. So
Yeah, she
Angela
did.
Marie said, theater develops many real-world skills such as public speaking, communication skills, eye contact, etc.
Yep,
It is
it
true.
sure
It
does.
develops a lot.
It
And
most certainly
bonds and
does.
friendships and gets people out of their shell.
It does. I mean, I
We need you to come out of your shell, Lisa. You need a good theater program.
would it surprise you if I told you I was in the thespian club and I was in the drama club and the opera club
It would not
in
surprise
high
me at
school?
all.
So yeah, and it wasn't just a matter of coming out of your shells. It teaches you so much.
Right.
It really does.
And I think that as a community, we really need to. I mean, I know I was kind of at my wit's end last night, and I was feeling like I wanted to just throw in the towel. But I think as a community, we need to start fighting back, getting parents back involved. Because I hate it
We
when
need-
teachers
we need
say,
as
the
many-
parents aren't
yeah.
interested. Well, the parents have gotten the shoe. They've been pretty much kicked out. And is every parent going to come in and help? Nope.
No.
But the parents that want to be there should have an open door.
Right.
I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you for letting me air my grievances. And now we're going to.
Oh, fine. You didn't say thank you to me last night.
Yes, I did. Now we're going to turn the page, and we're going to welcome Rick Olson.
Woohoo,
Hi,
Rick. What's going on,
Talking
man?
about acting, we should have had a friend of mine. I went to Pinkerton, back when I was in school over in the next town, and my friend should have been in the drama club. My buddy Phil, he could fake the best epileptic seizure I ever
Are you
saw.
kidding me?
Yeah, he used to
Oh
do
my
that to
God.
get out of
Are you-
class.
Oh,
So he'd actually do it down a flight of stairs.
any kids that are watching at home, that did not
Don't
come
try
from
that
us.
at home.
Kids. Yeah.
But he would fall downstairs. He could have been a stuntman. The guy was amazing.
Wow.
He'd act like he was going to pass out and then down the stairs, and it's
gosh.
like, oh my God, he had to have broken something. Nope.
Well,
just-
he had an untapped talent, that's for sure.
Oh man,
So, Richard, what's going on?
not a lot. We just hosted out at the Londonderry Fish and Game Club. We had John Farnham, and for those who don't know who John Farnham is he's one of the big names in pistol combatives and defensive rifle, and just a real solid guy, nice individual. And we just had defensive carbine out at the Londonderry Fish and Game Club, and we just finished that. We're looking to host others.
Awesome. So, Rick, you have a lot of certifications. What is one class that you teach that doesn't involve firearms?
Well, I haven't in a while, but clear the dust off. We used to have a class called Physical Apprehension Restraint Training. That's one.
That sounds like a good one.
That does sound like a good one. That
Yep.
does sound. And how long have you been teaching gun safety and maneuvers? And,
Oh, gosh, 30, 35 years.
and how many times have you accidentally shot yourself? Gotta ask.
I've never accidentally
you.
shot.
Thank
I,
you.
I want to clear something up. There's no accidentally shooting yourself. If you cause a bullet to leave a firearm and enter any portion of your body, you've done something wrong before that happened. Okay, it's what we call a negligent discharge. You had your finger on the trigger when the finger shouldn't have been on the trigger, and that's typically what happens. Or, I didn't mean to shoot that guy, I meant to shoot the other guy. Well, yeah, that's negligent too. Oh, it happens?
I'm sorry. No,
How
it
about
does.
that? How about that? Was he an FBI agent?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
the guy doing the backflip?
Dancing. Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
series of events, right? Did a backflip with a firearm in his pants. No, number one. Then he went to pick up the firearm by the trigger, apparently, because he shot it when he went to pick it up.
So I'm thinking that maybe he should no longer be an FBI agent.
I'm thinking, how did he get to be an FBI agent without having basic training like trigger control?
Oh, he had plenty of the requisite training to be a FBI agent, but understand what some of these folks do. I mean, not all of them, some of them, okay? You know, they go through the firearms training and they do all the right things, and then the firearm becomes common, and guess what happens? They kind of get relaxed and comfortable, and they kind of do things that perhaps they probably shouldn't do, the manner in which they store the firearm or pick up the firearm. I mean, you saw what happened. He did a backflip. Firearm comes out of the holster and hit the ground. They hit the ground with pretty good force if you're doing a backflip.
It sure
Yeah.
did.
It didn't discharge either.
No, it didn't.
It only discharged till
When
he
he
put
picked it up.
his
That's
hands
right.
on it.
That's right.
So obviously what he did was entirely negligent.
Which is why, like, continuing to get training is important, because you do fall into bad habits if you
Yeah.
don't continue your training, right? Like anything else. You should probably have to go get driving testing or
I agree.
retrained
Oh my
every
gosh,
few
I
years too, because
agree.
you see
Yeah.
the things that people get into on the roads. But you get lazy, or you just get into bad
Comfortable.
habits. You
Yeah,
get too
you get
comfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Get comfortable.
that happens
So-
with firearms too.
Yep.
I when I talk to people about training, I talk about what I call the ground up. In other words, all the skills, the foundational skills, whether it be drawing from a holster, how you're gripping the firearm, how you're reholstering the firearm, all of those are all perishable skills. If you're not forming habits, building that muscle memory when you're using the firearm, you could potentially run into problems. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. You have a lot of people use inside the waistband holsters. Okay, and they're great as long as the holster stays open when you draw the firearm and you can put the firearm back in. They're great. Then you're moving and reholstering and unholstering and moving. Well, guess what? Your shirt becomes untucked, and then the next thing you know, a big chunk of your fabric is down in your holster, and you go to reholster and bang.
Right.
So there's always an awareness at every step of firearm handling that you need to inculcate into your regimen if you're going to choose to carry a firearm as a lifestyle.
Yeah, I was actually a mutual friend of ours, Kim Moran, who was very involved in training women. She's with the Women's Defense League, and we were talking on the phone one night, and I said, when I started carrying again, because I hadn't carried for a lot of years, I started carrying an empty gun, like it was not loaded. It did not have a magazine in it, because I wanted to. Well, it had a magazine, it was empty. I wanted to make the mistakes that I was going to make.
Yeah.
When it wasn't loaded, because
Sure.
I knew there were going to be things like, leaving it in the bathroom, which I did not do, but that it does happen, or just
Dropping it out of your backpack.
dropping.
Out of your backpack at the State House.
Yeah.
I never carry in a purse or in a backpack. It's always on my person, but
I can't. I can't.
it actually
I
didn't
was there
fall.
when that-
It didn't fall out of her backpack.
No, it fell
her
out of her waist.
backpack
She had it in
pulled
her
it
waist.
out of her
She had it in her
holster.
waistband.
Right.
But me personally, I'm not an advocate of off-body carry.
I'm
If
not
it's in a
either.
purse or a
Me
backpack,
neither.
Well, especially
It's-
if you're in the city, because a person is more apt to try to grab your purse and run
Right.
than to hurt your person.
yeah.
So now you've armed them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm with you. I don't either.
It's and there's all kinds of other components that are coming to the fore. Like, did you guys see the meme, the Antifa meme, how to disarm a, what do they call it, a Nazi? How to disarm a Nazi?
Right. They're going to run up to a police officer and try to.
Or an open carry citizen, and then
Right.
you just simply, they talk about how the holsters are designed so that you
So
can
they're doing
easily.
videos to try to tell how to disarm a person. Like
No, they do a meme where you just, they give instructions. Take the firearm, take a photo of it, post it, and then throw it in the dumpster or whatever,
Right.
Right.
Right. They're going to
So-
try to unarm a person who's carrying a firearm.
oh, good luck with that. That's not going to end
That's
well.
going to be.
Nope.
It's not. It's not going to end
So
well.
with the coming elections, we've been discussing this quite a bit. We really believe there are a few groups of people that really need to make sure they get out to the polls. One is, if you believe in school choice in any way, shape, or form, the homeschool parent, anybody that believes that your child is your child, and
And
you should
not
be able
just
to make that
homeschool
decision.
parents. I want to make a distinction. You and I have been labeled as anti-public schools, and I want and for anyone who's listening out there, I'd like to make this clear, because Victoria and I for school choice does not make us anti-public
Not
school.
at all. There are some
What
great public schools
you-
that serve people
That
very
is
well.
correct. And people need to understand, too, that charter schools are public
Yes,
schools.
they are.
So when you label somebody anti-public school because you think that school choice is going to drain all of the monetary resources from the public school system, I got news for you. That's just not what it is.
It isn't.
Don't be a low information voter. Look into it.
Don't listen to Kathy Sullivan.
You know, honestly, I am not anti-public school. I wish public
Heather
schools
Sullivan.
could meet all the needs of every child. In a perfect world, that would happen. But children are so different.
Yep.
All children are. And we have an obligation as adults, and taxpayers especially, to make sure that we meet their educational needs, whether it's in a public school setting, a homeschool setting, a charter school setting, or any other way. And we should be funding it appropriately. So, you know what? You can label Victoria and I anti-public school all you want, because
only
nothing
people that
could
are
be
gonna do
further
that
than the
are
truth.
certain
Nothing could be further from the truth. And it
far,
really
far
does.
left people that don't
And I
like
get
us.
that, but you know what? You want to develop a narrative. At least get some facts behind it.
I love it when they say that, because my kids go to public school. I mean, now they go to a public
My
charter
kid went
school,
13 years in a public
but they
school
both went to
system.
a traditional public school. I was in the PTA for the public school. I raised money for that school, but somehow, because I believe that kids deserve choice, not all kids learn the same, and some kids, they get bullied and other things happen where they just need to be out of that environment in a different one, and they should be able to have those choices. Somehow I'm labeled anti-public school. I
Right,
don't
exactly.
understand that.
And I'll take the hits while on the school board, and I advocated as strongly as I did for SB 193. Sometimes you put the politics aside and you really do what's right. You really do what you think is right for those kids. So you can label us anti-public school, that's fine, but nothing could be further from the truth.
So school choice is one of those things. If you believe in school choice, you need to get yourself out and you need to get to vote.
Yep.
If you believe in the Second Amendment and that it is your right and it shall not be infringed, you need to get yourself off of that couch and get yourself out to vote, because they are absolutely coming for your Second Amendment rights. There is
And
no
remind
gray
people,
area.
if we lose the Second Amendment, the first follows.
Everything
and
follows.
every other amendment follows quickly
Yep.
thereafter.
Yep.
So, you
So
don't
we have an
to-
organization that bills themselves as Second Amendment supporters that have done more harm to our Second Amendment cause than the Democrats have.
I believe they have.
Yeah, and that's the New Hampshire Firearms Coalition, and I'm going to call them out because they are hurting us as a
They
community.
sure are.
Well, my thoughts on it is, I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing to have more firearm organizations, but traditionally what had happened within the state is you had Organization A and Organization B, and they couldn't particularly agree on the wording, but the goals were the same,
Right, right.
So you have these personality squabbles back and forth. All
We
this.
see them on some of the bills, but they come together, they work it out, and they end up with a good bill in the end.
That's
right?
the end of it, right? But this ain't that.
No.
No.
It's
This
far from
is
it.
this is I've never seen anything like it, But the record speaks for itself too, because all their endorsed candidates lost.
Yeah, so they went after Eddie Edwards, Steve Negron. They went after me. I think they went after you.
I have an F.
Right, so I have an F
rating,
too.
because
so,
I refuse to fill out their questionnaire.
So Lisa and I are members of the Women's Defense League. I am an NRA certified.
And I am no big gun enthusiast either.
Range-
I'm going to make that perfectly clear. I am no big gun enthusiast. These two people here know infinitely more than I probably will ever know about firearms. Not the point. I
Right.
am a pro Second Amendment person.
Right.
So if these people want to own 50 guns, then they should be able to.
Well, it's not even that. I'm a NRA certified range safety officer.
Yep.
I'm an NRA certified pistol instructor now. And I have an F from this organization who says that they're pro Second Amendment because I didn't fill out their survey, which is one of 30, 40 surveys that
And
we
it was a
get
horrible
running for
survey.
office.
It was
Well,
a horrible,
It is a horrible survey.
survey.
Here's the larger problem. The larger problem is that they gave you an F rating, but you have a voting record in Concord.
Thank
Right.
you. Yep.
Okay, so their grade belies that voting record in Concord. I
Right.
mean,
And please look up my voting record if you have any questions.
NRA gives you an A rating, and Gun Owners in New Hampshire gives you an A rating, and Pro Gun
NRA.
No, program doesn't do grades. That's right.
I was part of getting the constitutional carry passed. I was part of that voting. We drove
Yep.
up in the snow. We drove up in the snow
We
to
sure
make sure
did.
we got that
We
done.
sure did. Oh, remember
Yep.
that? We didn't.
It was
yeah,
bad,
if it,
bad
if it
weather.
wasn't for that bill, we wouldn't have gone.
But the complicated, where they frustrate things is, let's just take for a minute that they are in fact a gun group with a constituency. So now they give these bad ratings to all of these candidates that everybody else rates otherwise. So now you're the voter and you get their rating and you got the candidate's actual voting record. There's a conflict there. Something ain't right. So now they've got to resolve that in their mind. They don't have reliable information, so they tend it hurts everything. So
It does.
to your point, when you said they're hurting Second Amendment supporters in New Hampshire, based on that, I believe that's true.
Well, here's the thing. They came after Senator Kevin Avard really hard because of a bill that he put in that was not a bad bill. It left, it had a hearing. There were some flaws with it. The
Sure.
people got together. They fixed it. Ended up being
Yeah.
a really good bill in the end. But during that process, and, the secretary of the New Hampshire Firearms Coalition is a sitting state rep. He knows how this works.
Right.
We have hearings, so we know what's
Are
wrong.
you sure he knows how this works? I have my doubts.
And that's why we have a hearing process where the public comes and we vet it and we say, oh, there's unintended consequences here. This wording needs to be cleaned up. This definition isn't right. And we fix the bill, right?
Sure.
So it ended up coming out with full support from gun owners of New Hampshire and Women's Defense League. And it was Senator Avard's bill. He was crucified by
He
these
sure
people.
was.
They said he was a sleazy politician. He couldn't be trusted. This is through the process. They used it to fundraise for their organization and tried to pull down this man. Now, they've given Steve Negron
An F.
F.
and Eddie
A
Edwards too, right?
Two former, and not that I think that ever has that much, but Steve Negron is a retired Air Force officer.
Yep.
Eddie Edwards was in the Navy. How and why?
Plus, he's a pretty good shot. Did you see his video?
I sure did. I sure did. How could you because they refused to fill out a survey, you give them an F rating?
Well, here's the thing. So and then they relay that information to their people, right?
Yep.
So they can fundraise. Oh, they're against you. Send us $20 so we can fundraise. In the meantime, Second Amendment people are not going to be inclined to get off the couch and feel motivated to vote for these people that they've now trashed and said are not Second Amendment.
Right.
So I just wanted to say they are Second Amendment supporters. You need to get off your couch and support them because the Democrats that are going to come in are going to take away your Second Amendment rights. They're going to neuter them.
Yep, they
and
sure
you're not
are.
going to have them. Look at records, make phone calls to these candidates, ask them where they stand. You've vouched for Eddie in the past.
Absolutely.
You've endorsed him, I think,
Yep.
right? So,
Yep.
and I think he's with us at this moment.
Oh, that's
Do
good
we
news.
want to take
there he
a
is.
quick break? Oh, is he going to come
Hi.
back? There he is. Oh, he's all dressed up. He's going to
Right now.
outshine us as
We don't
usual.
need a break. We're not pros here, right? We can just keep going.
He's going to, look, he's got a tie on. Nice. He's going to outshine us because we're all
want
dressed
Facebook
like
Live?
bums.
I just ran up Elm Street.
I've been holding the phone.
You ran
and-
up Elm
Yeah,
Street?
yeah.
Oh,
No, you're
gosh.
here.
Had a
You
great
can man the
meeting.
phone for us.
Had a
We
great
have
meeting.
we have a
Just ran up Elm
cameraman
Street.
now.
So,
Thanks,
you know,
Sam.
we were talking about the
that Cindy
Second
over there?
Amendment,
Oh.
okay, and one of the counters of, the anti-gun contingent is the first thing they do is they come out and they say, oh, no, we don't want to take away your guns. You people are crazy. We're not trying to take away your guns. We just want responsible
Gun
gun
ownership.
legislation,
Yeah, right,
okay?
right.
Meanwhile, okay, now if you go back to the 1930s and all the way through and you follow the legislation, gun legislation doesn't come all in one fell swoop. It comes in incremental bits and pieces. So then you have the Gun Control Act 1968, and then you have the Gun Owner Protection Act 1986 with the Hughes Amendment, which was a shell game. So they're absolutely right. They're not there to take our guns away. That's
All
for the
at
next
once.
generation
Right.
of anti-left-wing gun nuts,
Well, who was it today? I saw. I saw it
You
on,
should introduce Eddie.
I saw it on Facebook, so it must be true. You have to. It was something about getting a mental health evaluation before you buy ammunition. All right, we'll expand on that. Hi, Eddie.
Hi, how are
Welcome.
you guys?
Well, let's introduce Eddie
We're
formally.
joined by Eddie Edwards, who's running for Congress in CD1.
Yeah.
He's coming off of a big primary win. Yay!
Yes.
I thought it was going to be a late night, and then I saw the ticker go 2% up, 3% up, 4%.
Yeah.
I'm like, we got it.
Pretty
We
awesome.
got it.
Yeah, so it was a good night, and now we're on to the general.
It was a really good night.
Yeah, we're on to the general. And,
It was a good night for you, for Steve,
Yeah.
for Dan Hines, which I think was the most unexpected win for the New Hampshire Senate.
It certainly was.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a really good
Yeah,
night in New
yeah.
Hampshire politics.
But it's just a start. It's just a start for you.
It is because
just a start.
this is a very, very important seat. You
It
know?
is.
It's a Republican seat, and I think there's no reason why we shouldn't have some level of Republican representation in Washington.
That's right.
Oh, it's time. It's
We
time.
have
It's
no
long
representation right now.
Yeah, we don't.
No,
It's
no,
long
we
overdue.
have 4 Democrat delegates in New Hampshire, representing the state of New Hampshire. And so when they talk about putting a check or balanced government, we should have balanced representation from here in the state of New Hampshire.
Yep, that's right.
So I had the pleasure of attending Glendy with you on Saturday,
yes.
which was honestly it was.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun,
Fun.
and I have to say that everyone was so incredibly welcoming, which
Oh, yeah.
I was. It's nice to see.
Oh,
In spite of
absolutely.
the fact that they had Pappas stickers on,
Yeah.
and
Some.
some had Pappas.
Just because they didn't know you were Italian.
I love. Well,
You're at the Greek church.
I'm at the Greek church. They don't know
They
I'm
didn't know you
Italian.
were Italian.
But
Yeah.
the one thing that I noticed, Eddie, is that of all the people that you talked with, you only had 1 or 2 people that had anything really negative to say.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to applaud you because I thought you handled that with so much class and tact.
Yes.
Now, I'm curious, can you bring that to Washington?
Oh, I think you can. I think you can. I think many of us who have served in the military, served in law enforcement, you develop a skill set, a unique skill set of dealing with people, because you meet people sometimes in their worst moments of their life. You're used to dealing with conflict. You learn and you're trained to bring situations under control without escalating the situation. And so, you know, in an environment like that where you have a few people who are very passionate about their issues and what they believe, and you can't personalize it. Yeah,
So people that who don't know you,
Right.
maybe they were following a different candidate for the primary and they
Right.
don't really know who you are. Can you just give us a timeline of your experience in the military, law enforcement?
Oh, sure.
And, how you got here?
Sure. I grew up
Why
in a,
would you ever want to get into politics?
Yeah, what is
Well-
wrong with you? You look so normal.
No, because I've met folks like you.
Good.
No, I don't
So-
know. Is that a compliment?
Of course it is. Of course it is. No, I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and I've been in New Hampshire for over 30 years. And I'm very proud of my community service to the state of New Hampshire as well, which I don't talk about as often. But I remember the first time I got involved in community service, I was in the United States Navy. And I chaperoned a high school graduation, chemical-free night, to make sure that young kids graduating would not participate in drinking that night. And so that was my first kind of step into community service in the state of New Hampshire. But I,
Was that a busy night?
well, actually, it was a quiet night.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it was a quiet night.
Right, because nobody was drinking.
Right. They took all the. I forget where they took the kids to, but it was myself and a couple of. At least one other Navy guy that we chaperoned this the graduation, and I started doing that. I coached high school football as well. Very proud of my record there because my last year we were 8-1.
Wow.
But I like to
That's
say we're
impressive.
undefeated because we played a team that was not scheduled. We only had 8 games, but we were so dominant that year. We were 8-0, and this team said, "Hey, we'd like to play you guys."
Coach Edwards.
Yeah, so we played them, and we shouldn't have because we got 8-1. But you know, when you say that, it's really fascinating to get calls now. Since the primary win, I receive calls and Facebook messages from kids I coached in high school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
And they're old enough to vote now.
they very much are. Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
So, after my active duty military service, I took a job in corrections because I wanted to really be in law enforcement. And after 5 years of corrections, I felt like I need to get a more traditional type of law enforcement. So I went to the New Hampshire State Liquor Enforcement Division. After the police academy, I was assigned to Keene, New Hampshire, where I served for.
You worked with Sterling Wheeler, right?
Oh yeah. Sure. Oh yeah. Where I served for over there for 5 years and developing skill around substance use disorder. Specializing in alcohol, specializing in alcohol and drugs. drug
We'll
enforcement.
pretend there's a kid in here making noise.
Yeah, we got an off-camera scene action going over
There
here.
is a kid in the room.
So after that, I was promoted to sergeant, lieutenant of operations, education, community outreach, where I supervised all of our training from firearms, defensive tactics, community policing. So I was in charge of all that training, identity theft, stuff like that, and moving on to participating in other programs like the Governor's Crime Commission, the state legislators' task force on DWI, and ultimately becoming the chief of the agency, serving as the chief administrative alcohol prosecutor for a number of years. And also I served as the legislative liaison for the state liquor commission, representing the liquor commission before the legislature. Also, I was responsible for actually drafting the regulations for the state liquor commission.
Awesome.
And ultimately, I retired, I became a local police chief, where I served there, then started my own business after that. Also ran for state senate in a very heavy Democrat district. I think at the time it was a D plus 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But we made a great fight. I can tell you that. We made a great fight. We brought it down to about 6
Wow.
points because we really went after some of the myths and fairy tales that people tell about conservatives.
Well, you're a really hard worker too.
Yeah.
Like I've been watching your campaign.
Very driven.
The-
Thank you.
Driven. Yeah.
Thank you.
Your
No,
wife, I think, must be exhausted, but you've been.
She is. She's my wife's great. She really is because
She
she
is.
works
She
all
is.
day. She works all day long. She hits the campaign trail at night. So I'm very blessed in that way. But also meeting great people like all of you on a campaign trail and developing friendships and bonds. And I think we really send the message that conservatives are not what people think we are.
No, and I'll say.
Anything close to it.
Not
I've
even.
worked with campaigns, not on, because I don't actually get paid for anything. My husband will tell you I'm great at volunteering for things. Professional volunteer. But I worked with people on lots of campaigns. And you guys are so tight. Like, it's like a family that you have going. And I don't know if it's because you started so early, so you guys have been working together for a year and a half now. But you're also working with really great people.
Oh yeah.
You know,
we have a
like
good team.
as far as character goes, I think you've got the cream of the crop working on your team.
Yeah.
And it's been great to be a part of it. I wish I was with you guys in Portsmouth when you won, but it was a little far from me because
Oh,
I
yeah.
was standing outside the polls
Yeah, I
all day
know.
myself.
Somebody has to remember us here in Manchester.
Oh no. When we have. What's funny? When you travel to the district, there's 80 cities and towns.
We're just spoiled. We're used to things being
Right
You're,
here.
you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. And one of the things that you start to see that, and I'm still the only candidate in this race now, out of the two of us in general, that's been to all 80 cities and towns to campaign.
Wow.
And I can tell you, when I was in Conway, they said, "Hey, hopefully you come back because nobody ever comes to see us."
Wow.
I went to Raymond. And they said, "Hopefully you come back because nobody ever comes to see us." People on the Seacoast said, "Hope you come back because nobody comes to see us." And now Manchester says nobody comes to see us. But you know what? You're right. It just goes to show that when you show up, people want that. They want that in their representative. They want to be able to feel and touch their representative so they can hold them accountable.
Yeah.
So you're gonna now, and let me ask you a question. From my lips to God's ears, when you do get elected, you're going to remember us in New Hampshire. You're going to come and do the
gonna
same
have an
thing.
office
You're
right
going to have
here.
town halls like they're
course,
supposed
of course.
to be.
Yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
asking Eddie because people want to know that because I think that's one of the worst things that we have going right now is the representation we have in Washington does not connect with us. Even though
No.
I'm a Republican, it doesn't matter. I don't see them
And I will say-
coming into the communities and talking to people, holding town halls, or even, I've emailed them a few times with some of my concerns. I have a real issue with getting form letters.
Oh yeah, they're
I
great.
have a real issue because when I answer emails, even as a lowly state rep, I never use a form letter. I personalize
Well,
the
let's
letter.
be honest, we don't have staff, so we have to.
Okay.
But no, you make a good point. You make a good point because that's why we did town halls in this campaign. We're the only campaign that did town halls. We did 5 town halls. And I was only disappointed we weren't able to do more because I would rather do town halls and meet and greets because it gives the voters a real opportunity to ask you questions, examine you a little bit, beat you up a little bit. And I think that's important. And I do appreciate what you just said. And I've made a commitment as I travel throughout the district that I will be a representative that shows up. So, because I want you to hold me accountable.
And that's what we need. We really do because it's not all rainbows and unicorns. Sometimes our representation needs to hear what we're upset about.
Right.
You know, you can't just cower and expect everything to go away because you're not there. It doesn't. It festers. It does. And if we don't have our representation in Washington at least coming up and trying to address some of these issues, that's when it gets worse.
Well,
And I
sure.
think I know that's why November is a red wave for this state. We're going to go from the purple that we are to red because we've actually watched over the past 12 years how we really don't have representation that connects with
But
us.
people need to get out to vote because
yeah,
Oh,
what happens
absolutely.
is
out to vote.
people become complacent. Things are really good right now, right? So people aren't motivated when they're not uncomfortable. Like you reach out to people for help when you're uncomfortable,
Well, I
right?
have
when
to make
things
them
are painful.
uncomfortable. We'll have to make them
So-
uncomfortable. That's all. I don't
when
have
things,
a problem.
when things are going this good,
Let's
the
hope that-
economy is good, jobs are great, people are feeling good about things, they're not as motivated to go out to vote. But I think people need to understand that we can really lose all of that very quickly if we don't get out to vote to protect what we have. Because
the
the
Brett
other side
Kavanaugh
is
hearings?
very, very motivated.
That should motivate people.
Well, you think about this, right? So
Right.
at the national level, things are going extremely well, and that's a turnaround in 2 years. Here at the state level, things are going really well. Turnaround in 2 years, and so I agree with you wholeheartedly. People start to think like, oh, things are good. I can sit back. It's not by accident that we have these
No,
things. It's
exactly.
because we put people in office
Right.
who are going to do the right thing for American families,
And
American
Obama did
business
not
people.
create this economy. I don't care what he said.
Well, that's interesting too, right? Because initially, when the economy was doing really, really well, and the president was talking about the economy, they didn't want to give him credit for it.
Right.
They kept saying, "Well, it's not that good," and the numbers aren't what he thinks they are. And now that's been proven to be false. Now people are coming out trying to take credit for it.
Do you think they're jumping on? You think they're jumping on the Trump train?
Well, they're not jumping on the Trump train. They want to take credit for the work.
Right.
They want to take credit for the work.
Without doing the work.
And historically, and this is what I mean, I always appreciate telling the Republican, the conservative narrative, because a lot of children in our country aren't taught the values of our nation. They're not taught what the difference between a conservative and a liberal is. They're not taught certainly the legacy of our party. And so people grow up with this belief or have this image of what it means to be a Republican. Look, we're all conservatives here.
Right.
And we're having a great time. We're laughing, we're smiling, and we care about our
and
communities.
I don't live in a mansion.
Right, right,
I
right.
I live on the east side of Manchester.
Contrary to popular belief,
on the south
Yeah.
side.
not all conservatives are wealthy.
Exactly. Right.
So-
right. They aren't. Oh
Right,
my gosh,
right.
I'm hanging
Rick
out
would
with
have a really big house if he didn't have so many firearms.
Right.
Well, it's funny because we talk. The stereotype that Republicans are wealthy. It's actually the Democrats who are rich.
Yeah, they are.
When you throw in Hollywood and all
Oh,
the
yeah.
writers and
Yeah.
authors and playwrights, that's wealth.
Yeah,
Got us
yeah.
beat hands down.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this is really about unifying our country. And that's why that's why you saw the Democrats really pushing for military candidates to run as Democrats, because they realized that the general public, that independent voter, is much more interested in someone who's been trained in leadership at the national level, someone who's been required to work with all ethnicities, all races, all genders, all sexual orientation folks to accomplish a mission. And you don't see that with the typical establishment career type politician.
No, you don't. And
You don't.
And Eddie, I think it's important for people to understand too that you're not a politician.
Right.
This has not been your life's work.
No, it hasn't.
And I
Although
think
he did miss part of his resume.
what?
I believe that I saw, like I said, it was on Facebook, so it must be true.
Yeah.
But I believe I saw a video where he used to be a power lifter.
I was.
Oh my gosh!
I was a very successful power lifter.
No, it's
No, it's part of his resume.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. I was a very successful power lifter too. I hurt myself a lot, but I was,
I
I was pretty good at it.
I'm a therapist. I
Oh,
know
yeah,
you did.
yeah, yeah.
I know you did.
I mean,
oh my gosh!
I pulled a number of hamstrings. I ripped my chest apart. I actually had to have surgery to repair my
I
chest.
bet.
Wow.
You got any rotator cuffs left?
No, not
really?
Yeah. I can't do a lot of shoulder presses anymore. But yeah, I had a gym lift, and for those competitive power lifters, they'll tell you that doesn't count if you did it in the gym. But I pulled 800 pounds in the gym. I think the most
How much did you weigh?
I weighed 259 at the time. Doing my competitive weight,
almost 400.
but I was 275 at my highest. No, 280. I'm sorry, 280
Wow.
at my highest, my heaviest weight.
So it's not fake news.
No, it's not fake news. But I will tell you, I had to calm down a little bit because I was walking up upstairs once, and a good friend of mine, a local police chief over in Keene, Kenny Miola, he's on the phone with me. He says, Kenny Miola, yeah. He says to me, what are you doing? I said, why? He says, you're breathing so heavy. And I said, well, I just walked upstairs. So I realized I had to take some weight off. I was 280 pounds at that point, and I had 19% body fat at that time.
Wow.
And
I'd be happy to have 19%.
so I was a pretty big guy. And I had a 450 bench press in the gym.
Wow. So,
675.
So when a
squat.
guy is lifting, is what lean is for a guy, like 8-10% body fat?
No.
Well, no.
Like,
It's a lot higher than that. Yeah, 20,
20 is
21.
Yeah.
Yeah, but because there's certain
So like 8-10, that's like totally
that's real thin.
thin down when you're
That's real
competing
thin.
for like
that's-
Mr. Universe, that
That's
kind
real
of
thin.
thing.
Honestly, I mean, I would
Skin.
say if anybody had 8-9% body fat, they're probably dead.
Really?
Oh, no,
they
but because in the military, I was around 200 pounds, and I was very, very lean. I had virtually no body fat on me. I couldn't float. Because I couldn't swim.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't
You're
swim.
right, you couldn't.
I could not swim when I joined the military.
Yeah.
And the Navy,
Oh
no
my
less,
gosh,
right?
that is so funny.
And so they taught me to swim in the Navy, but I remember them trying to teach me to float.
You couldn't
And I
do
could
it.
not float.
'Cause you had-
And
right,
yeah,
right,
they
that's
said
fine.
I had very little body fat. But anyway,
So it sounds to me like with that powerlifting, you're more than equipped to lift the heavy load. I'm just saying.
What a
I'm
great
not
segue,
saying,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm just saying.
It's a heavy load, yes, yeah.
Looks to me, sounds to me like you can do it.
And he can't float, so he can sink right down, grab that plug, and drain that smoke.
Thank you.
That's great. You guys are great. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, I'm
Some
thinking that's
creative
about
minds
the
right
size
there.
of it. I'm thinking that's
awesome.
about the size
So-
of
Yeah.
it.
Well, while you two were here together, you actually, I was listening to something, reading an article that you wrote, watching to an interview that you did, and you guys came together on something that was really important that changed my way of thinking about arming teachers in the schools.
Absolutely.
And you're on the same page of that,
Yep.
with that. So you guys want to explain that a little bit?
Sure. Well, my belief is that you don't expand the role of government. And when the government decides to buy firearms, train you, now the government has a responsibility for that position. And that's an ongoing cost. We're expanding the scope and role and responsibility of government, particularly in the area of teaching, education. And I've always believed that that's the wrong approach, because the more authority, more influence you provide in government, the less likely you're going to have freedom. Now, if an individual citizen is trained and wants to carry their firearm, we're in the state of New Hampshire, right? And as far as I can tell, we're still in America. And so our Constitution restrains our government. It doesn't restrain citizens.
That's
it
right.
restrains the government.
That's right.
And
It's
I-
supposed to.
Absolutely. And I think we hold citizens accountable for their behavior. We don't control them. We hold them accountable. That's what freedom and responsibility is all about. And so I think if a teacher is qualified and they want to carry their firearm, that's more than appropriate, as long as the government is not providing the resources. Because the moment the government provides the resources, now you no longer have a teacher. You have something you train that has to have a different job title now, because they're educating and providing a level of security. And by the way, from a law enforcement perspective, when you train someone to carry a firearm from under the government's authority, you're not training them just to be able to shoot someone. Now they have to be trained to bring people under control,
Right.
just like police officers. We don't train police officers just to go out and use
shoot,
deadly
right,
force.
there's-
You train them in the
yeah.
level of escalation, de-escalation. Like we were talking about before, you're trained to de-escalate situations, or in weapon retention, and a whole host of things that go along with that. That's not the responsibility of government.
And Rick had written a really great article for Granite Rock about that, explaining sort of more. And I was like, wow, you know what? You guys are right. It changed. It really did change my way of thinking. It changed my mind on it. And
I've always felt that it would be.
I want someone in the school protecting my
course.
child, and I think teachers should
Yeah.
be able to protect themselves. I got caught up in the training. I want them trained too, but I agree with you. It shouldn't be government training. They should be trained on their own.
Exactly. And it should be some. It
And they
should be
can seek you
voluntary.
out for training. So we're down to about almost 2 minutes. So do you want to tell people how to get a hold of you if they want to join
1 minute.
Londonderry
Oh my
Fishing Game,
gosh.
if they want to get some training,
Go
if
to
they want to...
LondonderryFishingGameClub.org.
That's right.
All you got to do.
And
It's
the
a
only
great
candidate, and
club.
honestly, the only candidate for Congress is Eddie Edwards. And come on, guys.
For CD1.
For CD1.
CD1.
And I
Nice.
suspect you
That's
should
it.
keep watching our website because we're going to have some campaign events very
Oh,
soon out
excellent.
at the club.
It's a
Awesome.
great club. It really is. It's a lot of
Right.
fun to go. They have archery too, and there's a
We-
pond to go fishing.
Yep.
They have family events there.
They
I
sure
really,
do.
It's the best money I spent for my family. I'll tell you, we enjoy it quite a
And,
bit.
and I may add too, this whole issue on when we're talking about the Second Amendment, this is really a cultural thing too.
It really is.
The state of New Hampshire, our state is a great state because of the culture of the people
That's
here.
right.
And you look around the country, we can't be solely responsible for everyone else. And I think it's wrong for anyone running for federal office to seek to have the federal government come into a state like New Hampshire and start trying to manage the state of New Hampshire. We have wonderful legislators. We have wonderful leadership in our state. There's no reason why we need the federal government to tell New Hampshire how to do
And that's the
things.
difference between Republicans and Democrats. We
Thank
believe
you.
in individual liberty, and they believe in government control. So we have to wrap it up now. Eddie, do you want to tell people how to
Rapido.
get a hold of you?
Yes, please come to Edwards4NH, EdwardsFORNH.com. That's the website. Check us out on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. And we'd love to have your vote November 6th.
All right, thank you. And Lisa and I are around all the time. If you're
Yeah,
around
yeah, you
Manchester,
can't get rid of us.
We're on Facebook. It can be reached at
Don't call
www.victoriasullivan4nh.com. That's my website. Lisa?
Lisa M. Freeman at myfairpoint.net. Yes, it's very cryptic. You may not remember it.
So get out to vote.
Get out
Everything
to
can change
vote.
if you do not. I won my first election by 2 votes.
6
so
over
your
here.
vote does count.
6 votes.
Thanks for joining us, and thank you
Thanks
to
for
Gary
coming,
and Eric
Eddie
for letting
and
us
Rick.
sit in. We hope that we did you proud, and we didn't do any damage, right?
We'll do damage control.
All right. Thank you. Have a great